host for this event. Now, before we begin, just wanted to let you know that this session shall be recorded and we'll be sending it to you post-webinar along with the link to our presentation. We would love to hear from you, so please add your questions in the Q&A section that is on the left side of your screen, and we'll answer as many questions as possible at the end of this session. For those of you just joining us, welcome. So while everyone's joining in, we are going to run a poll right now to understand the BI tool usage that we have in this audience. So let me just run it right now. Now, before we kick off, to give you a little context on who we are as a company, vPhrase is a global technology company that provides AI-powered business intelligence and reporting automation solutions using machine learning and natural language generation technology. Founded in 2015, vPhrase is an NLG leader headquartered in India with a global clientele. Now, our vision at vPhrase is to build a society where you don't need the expertise to understand data. All right. I would like to introduce today's speakers for this evening. Arun Tyagi. Arun is the Global Sales Director here at vPhrase. He drives sales and acquisition strategies across the globe for us. Welcome, Arun.
Thank you, Shruti.
And also we have Kevin Shah. Kevin leads sales for India, working with senior leaders of leading enterprises to help them solve problems related to BI and analytics with new age technologies. How are you doing, Kevin?
I'm good, Shruti. How are you?
Great.
Thanks for having me here.
Wonderful. To ensure we stay on schedule, here's the agenda for the session, with the key takeaway being unlocking the answer to improving the ROI on your business intelligence investments. And of course, we'll end it with a Q&A session. Great. So let's kick off. Kevin, according to you, your experience, what is the current scenario of business intelligence? Please share your insights with us.
True. So I like to start generally with numbers, right? And if we look at numbers, since 2015, right, when I think the market for BI tools was generally around, let's say, between 15 odd $billion. And suddenly, in last 5 years, it has reached to 20, 23, 24 odd $billion. And what's expected is more amazing. It's expected that in next 5 years, it will go to $33 billion. So it's around $10 billion getting added in next 5 years. And if we look at it, top 2 or 3 companies together are having a revenue in $2 or $3 billion, right? So they are actually minting $2 to $3 million every year. And we know it why it's happening, right? Companies are buying it actively. Companies want to use their data in a better way. And I think, Arun, no one would be better than you, at least in this space, considering you know how usage of BI or data comprehension has changed in last 10, 15 years. So why don't you add there?
Certainly, Kevin. Thanks. Shruti, thanks for the introduction as well. Welcome everyone to the session today. I think from a BI evolution standpoint, Kevin, if you were to talk, right, the trend that we've seen over the last close to about a decade right now is the movement away from the visual, driven or visualization driven intelligence to now, where people are more bothered about what's happening with my data. What do I do with it, right? Getting some real-time insights, getting some real-time actionables that can enable me to make quicker, better, and rather precise decisions. The other thing that we've also seen is, from an adoption perspective, is that most of these BI tools are bought but never really used. Almost 75% of them, but the largest of tools, whether it's Tableau, Power BI, and the likes, lie dormant, even though companies have made investments for about 3 to 5 years to 7 years as well, which are significant investments, right? The problem is that they always leave you wanting, simply from the perspective that businesses don't really have the time, or the business users don't really have the time to sit down and analyze the dashboard and try to decipher what an image is talking about, right? And that's something which has really changed the dynamics of the industry in itself. Another thing that I also wanted to sort of touch upon is the capability of automation within the intelligence layer by bringing in the context of not only just writing or writing on your behalf or writing automation, but essentially cognitive abilities and cognitive thinking of the technology platforms that should take over instead of having a manual intervention or a dependency on a human to sit down and try to analyze and try to understand what's going on. Businesses don't want technologies to show them a beautiful graph or a beautiful visual. They want technologies to tell them exactly what transpired in my data and what do I do about it, right? How do I make quicker, better, larger decisions that are absolutely dependent on crazy amount of data that I process today? Um, So, from a cognitive ability perspective, what the businesses want is for a technology to think on their behalf and enable them with immediate insights, immediate actionables that they can consume without having to apply themselves, without having to sit down and put their own thoughts into it, and immediately take an action on it. That is something which has significantly changed the dynamics, and that's also one of the reasons why users don't really want to go ahead and interact with dashboards, because they may or may not come with a technological background or an analytical background, but they're business users. They just want to use data and not the other way around. Yeah.
Shruti, if you could move to the next slide. I think the slide actually captures well what Arun you mentioned, right? When buyers actually went out to buy, they wanted to make data accessible across the company. They wanted to equip their stakeholders with to make data backed decisions. But what has happened is eventually after the whole procurement and installation and everything, adoption has become an issue, right? Which you exactly mentioned, where it's less than 25 or 30% in any enterprise, and that's one part of it. The another problem statement that's more prevailing is you have to invest in training everyone to even view it, learn it, and go through it, and navigate through the dashboards. And once you have done that, if you have invested and trained everyone, the another thing that comes up is the time spent by people in going through those dashboards, right? So you can't expect a CXO to sit and go through those dashboards, navigate through the charts and tables to figure out the insights. And that essentially has pulled down the expected ROI, right? So when everyone is buying out all of these BI tools, they expect a certain level of threshold of ROI. But what has eventually happened is it has never met that expectation. And that's why we are ideally looking for better solutions. So if you were to ask you, Arun, what do you think would add up as a more a concise, a better way of using a BI tool?
Well, like I said, see the gap that is very clearly articulated and identified in the BI versus the expectations kind of a scenario is businesses want simpler access to intelligence. They don't care whether that comes through a dashboard, whether that comes through a visual, a graph, or in a very simple summarized bullet point, right? At the end of the day, what they want is intelligence, and what they want is it has to be snackable, something that they can leverage and immediately ingest and start acting upon. Another issue that we've also seen is a lot of larger organizations, in fact most of them, tend to use multiple BI tools or multiple dashboards, and also tend to store data in multiple avenues and channels as well, which also makes it difficult for this data to be aggregated in a single place where they can actually go ahead and pull out the insights from. So one of the other sort of possibilities has to be a single view or a single layer of intelligence that can aggregate and that can interact with and connect with all data sources and provide you with a single sign-on or a single view of your entire analytics vertical or your entire data. Because even the larger organizations, there are companies that have been in the market for 20, 30, 50 years as well, and are sitting on the plethora of data, but never really get to use 100% of it. Best case scenario, they barely get about 30% of the access, and then they make their decisions. Which, when you think about it, considering all the investments and technologies and everything that they have there at their disposal, kind of beats the purpose itself. There's a new word in town. Well, I wouldn't say new word anymore, but there's this buzzword that's been there for quite some time called augmented analytics, and what it essentially talks about is automation that is backed up by cognitive abilities and smartness of a technology to take over and enable businesses to make better, more precise decisions by leveraging the ability of the technology to think on its behalf, right? So far, the dependency on a human to sit down and decipher data and then take a call is so prevalent that we, had not really been focusing on the fact that, what if the technology actually thinks on our behalf, and again, while it's thinking on our behalf, it's not really acting on it. What it's simply doing is enabling us and empowering us by getting a much better, much deeper view of my data that I can then go ahead and back myself upon and still go ahead and take a gut call, right? So I think that's fairly important for businesses. And the last aspect is the personalization of these insights, or personalization of all of this, this intelligence, right? Not every individual, depending on their role and responsibilities, requires absolute access to data and would require, absolute control on the insights as well. Personalization and democratization of the data is fairly important because nobody wants to go to a technology or analytics teams and ask them for data and wait for half an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 2 days, whatever it is, right? Um, the empowerment would really be there in the system when we can decentralize the centralized IT and analytics teams owning and governing the data from an infosec perspective or whatever it is, and who get to decide who gets access to what data, where from, how much, and what for. Instead, giving that capability to the business users and enabling them to be able to have a conversation with their data on a real-time basis without any dependence. That I think would make a huge difference, and that's where, if you look at a Gartner or a Deloitte as well, that's really where everything is moving right now. People are moving away from vision towards an insightful based, a story based, or summary based, BI right now.
True. And if we were to summarize, right, if we were to find one way out of the problem statement that we mentioned, and if you were to add up every solution that you mentioned or every want that we have, I think a narrative layer solves all of that, right? So if it's the most simplified delivery medium. Secondly, it can give you a single view intelligence in 1 or 2 sentences. So it can pick data from multiple sources and write a simply, beautifully, well worded sentence, which can be deep itself, which can actually go to the granular most data point. And that covers the first 3 points, and it can be more personalized to you, right? So when it talks to me, it can actually tell me where I should focus, where I lagged last month or last week. And reading one sentence against all the plethora of charts that I was interacting in the past solves everything, right? And I think that's why the whole advent of natural language generation has come in, right? Which is the more sophisticated word for narrative layer.
True. Like I said, one of the major points or major expectations that the classical BI platforms tend to miss out on is the narratives side of things, right? You could look at a beautiful dashboard, you could look at a beautiful graph, you could play around with it and try to get your own insights, but it would never tell you what happened, why it happened, right? The kind of correlation, causality that's required, the narrative builds it. However, the narrative is still, or the language is still the conduit or the mean of communication of that information, right? It is still the tech that has to take over and do those series of analysis and number crunching that at this moment we hire people to do. And almost 70% of those jobs are so repetitive that they can actually be automated, because most of these dashboards are once created and never really change more than 10 or 15, 20% of a fraction, right? If all of that is repetitive business and can be completely automated with not only writing capabilities where a tech is writing on your behalf, but also has the cognitive and analytical capabilities to do all of those analysis on your behalf and get you exactly what you want, and then let you play around and take calls. I think that'd be brilliant.
True. And that's why if what we see in the screen is the most simplified way of communicating what natural language generation does, right? So it takes in data, creates those summaries, which actually brings life to your dashboard, because now someone is telling you, you're not figuring out, you're not alone in that world while you're looking at those dashboards. And when you have someone telling you clearly what you should focus on, it creates a good business impact, because now you're not wasting your time, you are not to be trained, and you can simply read and act on it. So Shruti, if we can move to next 2 slides, right, which showcases how things have changed. So this is how a dashboard today looks without NLP, And then we have the next slide, which showcases a dashboard with NLG, right? So there's a small widget which is on top of a BI tool, right? So while Arun was mentioning about how BI, or how NLG adds narratives or automates reporting, right? Adds depth by using language. What also NLG does is it brings a layer on top of your BI tools, like we see in the center, and makes it more augmented, right? Makes it more interactive and directly personalized to you. So we also have Romil with us, who is an expert in NLG and expert in using NLG over BI dashboards. So why don't we hand over to him and quickly ask him to show us a demo of NLG over a BI tool.
Thank you,
Sure.
Kevin, for the introduction. Just let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes. We can see your screen, Romil.
Thank you, Shruti. Thank you, Kevin, for the introduction. So, before beginning in the demonstration that Kevin was mentioning, so just to set context and what Arun and Kevin have been mentioning till now, as you can see, I have a very standard Power BI dashboard in front of me. So I've logged into my Power BI, I've opened the dashboard, I can see these graphs and visualization. All of you, as you have mentioned in the poll as well, would be using different BI tools, right? But most of the BI tools only give you the power to view visualizations. And the challenge with visualizations is you will have to make your own conclusions, draw your own inferences by looking at the visualizations, or maybe clicking and going deeper and trying to find out correlations and reasons as to why something happened.
True.
What we propose to add to this is a smart narrative layer which gives you, in a few bullet points, summarizes everything that is happening in your business and presents it to you in a very general narrative way. So what that helps you to do is you can read those few bullet points and understand what the entire crux of your dashboard is, rather than going and looking at each visualization and digging deeper. So since the context is set, let me just jump into the actual demonstration. So as you can see, I have a Power BI dashboard. We already have the Phrazor plugin for Power BI already embedded into your dashboard. And it's a very simple process. It appears as any other visualization in your Power BI, and you can, as you can see, it's here. We can drag and drop it from the visualizations tab onto your dashboard. So moving ahead, let me just hop in inside the system. It tells me what data do I have to analyze. So let's go ahead, and once I click on next, as you can see on my screen now, the system gives me an option to do multiple different kinds of analysis on the same kind of a data. So whether I do a very basic descriptive kind of analysis, or maybe even a complex trend analysis, or a target versus achievement analysis, it's all up to me. The plugin gives us the capability to take in your data that resides on your Power BI dashboard and analyze it in a complex way. So let me just go ahead with the descriptor here. So what the system now asks of me is, it asks me, can you give me a few important inputs or important columns that you want to analyze? So as it's saying, select a date column. So let's say I just select my date column. I want to do a monthly kind of an analysis. Then I go to my metric. I select, let's say I want to see my actual spends. So this is an IT spend kind of dashboard that I have in front of me. So let me just see how my actual spends are moving. And then I'll see, select sales region. So I want to see which region is contributing the most, or which region is contributing the least. And as soon as I click on generate, the system takes in all the data that is available in the dashboard and tries to analyze it, and in a few moments brings all of these narratives in front of you. So these narratives are something that the Phrazor's intelligence is telling us that these are important narratives. Maybe you might be interested in them, so have a look at them, and then you can decide whether you want to add them or not. So as I read the couple, 1 out of 6 sales region has more than 80% contribution. So now this clearly makes me understand that USA has spent the most on IT for my business, right? Then I go deeper, it's telling me about the top two regions, the bottom two regions, XYZ. So let's say I like the top two analysis that is being shown in front of me, and I want to add it to my final out dashboard. So I simply click on this plus icon. So along with that, let's say I go below and select the bottom two as well. Again, I click on the plus icon, and as simple as that, now these insights are a part of my final output dashboard. So let me just click on done and show you how it will look. So whatever insights I generated right in front of you and selected from those possible options now are a permanent part of my dashboard. So each time your data refreshes or you apply a filter, all of these insights will automatically refresh, and you can keep on just reading them and getting a gist of your entire dashboard. So let's say you have built all of this, you have used multiple different kinds of analysis, like as I've shown you, descriptor, let's say you do a trend analysis, you do a diagnostics analysis, and you build your final output. There will be hundreds and thousands of users viewing this dashboard in your organization. So you are giving them a very basic view of to understand the entire dashboard in few simple narratives. Along with that, let's say they have a few extra questions that they would like answers to. What they can do is they can jump into the Ask Phrazor section of our plugin and simply type their question in English and get their answer right away in real time. So let's just say I want to know my top two IT areas which are spending the most. So as soon as I type just top two IT areas, it starts showing me exactly what kind of questions would I like to see. So let's say I just click top two IT areas for my actuals. Within a moment, the system understood your question, analyzed the data, and brought the answer to you in a very simple to consume narrative. So as it says, out of five IT areas, functional and view support are the top two, along with the values of those. Now you can keep on asking more and more questions on an ad hoc basis, and each user can keep on asking his own sets of questions. Or what you can also do is, if you want this kind of an insight to be a permanent part of your tool, you can again click on this plus icon and go back to your final output. And as you can see, now this again has become a part of my final output of my dashboard. So any user coming in will be able to read these two, three quick insights and get the gist of the entire dashboard. And what more, this adds to your BI tool's capability of helping you analyze your data. Since BI tool only provide visualizations to you, this narrative layer will help you augment those visualizations and add to those visualizations by giving you quick commentaries you can easily consume and straight away take decisions from.
And the fact that it doesn't take more than a couple of minutes for the plugin to be installed on any classical BI platform, like a Tableau or a Power BI, right?
Right. So as you just see, once that plugin is in the or your administrator gets that plugin file into your visualizations, you just need to, I can add another one, right? I can just simply click and here it is. It has been added to my tool. So it's as simple as that. It won't take more than a couple of minutes.
Thank you. Thanks, Rohit. Guys, I think your screen is invisible, so just check that once, please.
Yeah.
Anymore. So I think, Shruti, we have a question from one of the attendees said, do we need to share the data in a particular format for the tool to work effectively? From Arun. So Arun, no, not really. I mean, it isn't a particular format as long as it's a structured data. The data can be ingested within the tool, and the tool would work exactly in the same manner. But it just needs to be structured. Yeah.
So if you were to continue and come back to the whole agenda, right? So we were talking about BI tools. We talked about the ROI. Then we talked about how narratives and NLG is helping there. And now when we look at the demo that Romil showed, right? It was a AI powered natural language generation engine bringing those narratives on top of a BI tool. So Arun, when we look at these advanced engines, right? At least at vPhrase, what are your thoughts on it when it comes to the whole intelligence bit that we have built?
Fairly simple. See what what we were discussing and what we identified as a clear gap, right, with the classical BI platforms. And again, this is no way to demean any of the existing technologies. They're brilliant platforms, but they were just made with a very different ideology, which was visual, right? That pictures speak 1,000 words. Nobody has the time right now to speak 1,000 words, to read 1,000 words, and decide which one is the right word, right? What you simply want to do is you want something, or you want somebody to sit down, analyze which out of those 1,000 words are the right 10 words that I need to be bothered about, right? Why are those the right words? And then write a report for me on my behalf, because I really don't have the time to do that, right? And that's basically what this plugin, or the overall Phrazor platform essentially is capable of doing. Since it's a patented technology, we own this technology. This is our IP itself. And fairly simply speaking, the last 5 years as well, how the market has shifted. The future of business intelligence is fairly simple, and it is moving towards narrative built data stories, whether it's a Gartner or a Deloitte confirming and working in that direction. They are already predicting that in the next 5 years, almost 70 to 75% of all of these intelligence reports would actually be written by AIs or by augmented analytics platforms such as us, something we've been doing for the last 5 years already. So, like I said, with the classical BI platforms, where they leave you wanting is the exact gap that we initiated ourselves with, and is the exact gap that we wanted to fill when we started out 5 years ago.
And that's why the term augmented dashboard has come to play, right? So last 2-3 years, people have been talking about augmented dashboards, where there was first augmented analytics, and now it has moved to augmented dashboards. And if you look at the last 15-20 minutes that we have covered about how narratives enrich those dashboards, that's what the future is, and that's what is called augmented dashboards. And if you look at the benefits of it, it's pretty clear, right? So what happens is, now when you log into those dashboards, you get the most granular data point in front of you in a form of a sentence, right, which you have to just read and start working on. Secondly, as you were mentioning, right, various stakeholders, and each stakeholder would have his set of data, but we can merge all of it and bring it on a single dashboard within a couple of sentences. And then all the other benefits which come with it, right, where you don't have to train the KPIs. If there's a change in KPI, you don't have to drill out. It will come in a few sentences, right? And it avoids the time spent in figuring out the last mile insight, right? So all of those insights, all of those benefits rather come to play when the narratives over BI tools, where BI tools play their role, where they give you charts and tables for further drill down, but a layer of summarized bullet points just takes it to the next level, and that's why it's called augmented dashboards, right? So I think
proof of the pudding is that even the larger classical BI platforms are now actually looking at partnering up with energy players like ourselves, simply to bring this capability, right? They could either decide to build this capability, but again, fundamentally, it's not possible for them because they're a very different kind of platform, and that's why they've also realized this, and they're moving in the direction of narratives to be built in within their dashboard itself, and hence looking to partner with organizations or platforms like us. Also, that in itself is a proof of the pudding that even the larger players understand and realize where the market is moving to, and I think that's something that we need to watch out for over the next few years.
Sure, agreed. So, do we have more questions, Shruti?
I see one common question that everyone's asking. We just have, I think we've reached our time, so we'll answer this. It says, what all dashboards do we integrate with?
So at this moment, I think the plugin is readily, or out of the box capabilities available for Tableau and Power BI. More are in the pipeline right now, but depending on a business decision and the need of it, it does not take us more than a couple of weeks to be able to create a plugin for any of the other BI platforms like a ClickView, ClickSense, or MicroStrategy or whatever.
All right.
Another question. We'll just take it very quickly, Shruti, if you won't mind.
I think we've reached the end of the session. I'll ensure that I answer to these questions personally, and let's quickly summarize. All right. So to summarize, organizations today have the chance to transform their existing BI platforms into a truly self-service, inclusive tool that can be used by a diverse group of people, no matter their skills or expertise. Phrazor's energy extension augments visualizations with narratives to maximize data understanding, increase user engagement, thereby helping your organization to truly achieve a better ROI. We hope you had an insightful session with us. Feel free to reach out to us in case you would like to have a one-on-one discussion. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Shruti, if I see Arun is still there, if you wouldn't mind, I would still like to take this question on, and for everyone's benefit as well. Do you, Arun Vadwan's question is, do you need these visualization tools for the Phrazor to work? Can it connect with the DB and just connect the narratives and the relevant visualization? So, Arun, if I've understood your question, you're asking without the BI platform or the visualization layer, can you still get narratives? The answer is yes. So if you don't have a BI platform already, we have a full-blown AI-powered platform called Phrazor. What you've seen today is just a concentrated version as an extension of that full-blown BI platform. Which enables you to close that gap between the classical BI platforms and enables the narratives to be built within the BI platforms like a Tableau or a Power BI. So the answer to your question fairly simply is yes. If you don't have a BI platform right now, you can simply use our Phrazor platform and get these narratives built in along with the visualization and the business intelligence layer. Thank you, Arun. It's been a pleasure hosting all of you guys. I hope the discussion was informative as well as relevant to all of you guys. I hope it was interesting enough. And for any further questions, we'd love to connect with you guys. We'd love to hear from you. Any feedback, any suggestions are more than welcome. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Shruti, Kevin, for hosting this. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Arun. Thanks, Shruti.
Thank you. Thank you so much.